Moving on, we have our very first keynote presentation by eminent platinum sponsor, Oracle, on innovation enablement via a geo-distributed cloud. That's presented by engineer Badr Tharwat, workload architect leader, Oracle EMEA. Right? Engineer Tharwat is an enterprise architect director for the EMEA region, heading application development and innovation enablement in EMEA. He has worked with numerous organizations around the region to enable them to effectively use the cloud to deliver value and digital innovation to their customers. Engineer Tharwat is a strong believer in multi-hybrid clouds and is certified AWS, GCP, Azure, and OCI architect. We welcome you, and the stage is all yours, sir.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. I have a couple of slides that I prepped for this. So just let me know once you can see.
We can see your screen.
Okay, cool. Just yeah, you can still see it, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let's go on with it. I'm going for a 15 minutes presentation, so it's going to be very fast. If you have any questions, you can just reach out for me later. You'll find my information on LinkedIn or anywhere else. So today what I'm going to talk about is innovation enablement via Oracle Cloud and the Geo-distributed cloud and how it can help you innovate as an organization. So what I'm going to talk about today is the value of the digital economy and the challenges it's facing. Then how Oracle Cloud empowers the digital economy. And finally, if we have any time, I can take some questions. So first of all, this is an interesting number. 15.5 of the world's GDP is actually the result of digital innovation. That's a significant number to bid into. That's a lot higher than many precious metals if you think about it, and many other activities. That's almost 15.5, almost 16% of the world's GDP coming from digital, right? And the thing is, it has been growing at a 2.5x rate compared to the global GDP in the past 15 years. So if you look at the curve, it's a linearly heading up curve. Digital economy is here to stay, and it's growing. Next year is going to be 16%. The one after it's going to be 16.5, not 17. Of course, this is further enhanced due to the COVID-19 situation. So think about all of the educational platforms and all of the digital transformations that we went through because of COVID and the situation and the lockdowns that we went through. So I touched on that earlier when I was asked about the reason why to go to the cloud. The point is Saudi Arabia is quite ahead of the market when it comes to that. And NDU, a National Digitization Unit, in partnership with CITC, came up with a digital economy policy for Saudi Arabia. They listed around 7 points. I'm just capturing 4 here. First of all, access to digital infrastructure. Digital infrastructure is the backbone to digital economy. I mean, if you want to build a digital product, you need something to run it on top of, right? You cannot just run it on your own data center. You need something more robust than that. Data, as I mentioned in my answer as well, data is a vital pillar of the digital economy, and it enables innovative solutions to economic and social challenges. Then innovation. So in order to have a digital economy, you need to be innovative. And as I mentioned, there are several kinds of innovation, starting from incremental to breakthrough. I'm talking about all of them, but incremental innovations have a higher return on investment on the long term, and it has a lower risk coefficient as well. And the good thing is the kingdom aims to harness innovation in support of civil society and enable access and participation for all the benefits of the digital services. If you think about it, the digital services that the Saudi government is providing is well ahead of many European countries and definitely ahead of the US, believe it or not. Finally, open markets. The kingdom aims to become the ultimate destination for digital investments. So attracting digital innovators into Saudi Arabia. Already we're seeing this with companies such as Oracle launching their data center here in Saudi Arabia. And once you do that, anybody who wants to build a digital product, say in Jordan, Egypt, Tunisia, any of the North African countries, their nearest data center is actually Jeddah. So digital innovators build the data center and the innovators will come in. That's the name of the game. However, it doesn't stop there. If you want to have an open market and you want to have a thriving digital economy, you need to focus on outsourcing and not outsourcing, exporting your digital products. The digital products being manufactured or built in Saudi Arabia should be exportable and usable out of the country and bring in fresh cash out of the country, right? Okay, so digital innovation faces several challenges. I listed 5 of them here. These are the 5 I'm going to address in my presentation, starting with the data residency regulation. There are many data residency regulations around the world. There's the GDPR in Europe, where data cannot cross borders out of the European Union. Something similar in the US. In Saudi Arabia, there's the data residency mandates, where you cannot have personally identifying information depart the country. So, for instance, if you want to build a banking app or any of the regulated industries, if you want to launch an app, you cannot have that app run in, say, Bahrain or Munich or the US. The data must exist in the country in both encrypted and unencrypted terms. Then you get the vendor lock-in. Many of the cloud providers have these lock-in features. So once you start building it on the cloud, on their cloud, you cannot actually move it to other clouds. So you're stuck with them and their footprint around the world. If you want to go to a new place or another cloud provider, you cannot. So even though the cloud on the surface looks like it's an openness motivating kind of an ecosystem, in reality, sometimes with some clouds, it locks in. Then there is security concerns. And I'm glad that I've heard a lot of questions about security, because typically this is one of the points that people tend to think retroactively or not think about at all. There are several security concerns, as I mentioned, when you move from your own walled garden and into the wild, that you need to take into consideration. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot of experience building highly secure products on the cloud, which takes us to the next point, skill gaps. When you try to find employees who are good at building a certain solution on the cloud, you rapidly run into a skill gap, because it's not that new anymore, but it's not as old as other things. You wouldn't find someone with 15, 20 years of cloud experience, because it simply did not exist back then. So instead, you need to find younger people or retrain the people you've got. I actually heard a quote from one of the CIOs I worked under. It was a very good one. He said that he hires people based on their ability to unlearn rather than their ability to learn. Because in this rapidly transforming age we're in, you need people who are able to unlearn and relearn things in a new way. Finally, the compliance risk. You face a lot of compliance issues. You need to be audited. You need to make sure that your cloud, the cloud you're running on top, is just as certified as you are. So while if you're running in your data center, compliance is a bit simple because you're owning the entire stack from the electricity grid all the way up to the code itself. However, when you run on the cloud, you're only owning that top bit, while the rest is being handled and managed by your cloud provider. So just think about these 5 challenges, and in the next slides, I'm going to address each and every one of them. First of all, OCI is Oracle's solution, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, as they call it. It's a 2nd generation cloud with a global presence. So it's good for enterprise application, technical computing, and departmental applications as well. And it's a 2nd gen cloud. What's a 2nd gen cloud? A 2nd gen cloud is a cloud that offers ultra low latency network, a persistent connection to a relational database, clustering for ability, and ability to scale up rather than scale out. So the same machine, you can add processor into it rather than adding a new node into the application. We don't need to turn it off and on. It's purpose-built for scaling a new cloud. First of all, the data residency, the first challenge that I was talking about. We have 37 regions around the world, and we have other regions popping around every few months. So we have 7 planned in 22. By the end of 22, they should be up and running. We have 11 major interconnect regions. In our region, we have 3 up and running data centers and a 4th one coming along. So you have Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Jeddah, and Neom coming along, and many, many more. So the point here is when it comes to the cloud, Oracle is always next to you. It's practically a CDN if you think about it. If you look at AWS, AWS is benchmark when it comes to the cloud. It's one of the top 2 or top 3. They don't have the coverage that we've got here. So if you're a Saudi company and you decide to launch a digital service that you want to at some point export to Europe or export to Africa or export to Asia, where are the cloud to go for because of the regional footprint? Of course, if you're not interested in that, you can just make do with the local cloud. But again, it depends on what you're looking for. Okay, so 37, and as I mentioned, this is a point about the interconnection with Asia. We're living in an age where multi-cloud is a necessity. Everybody, you shouldn't really think of a single cloud fulfilling all of your needs. Instead, think of cloud as different tools in a tool set. With Oracle, we have interconnects built with other cloud providers. So you can run half of your work in Azure. For instance, if you have Outlook server or you have, Microsoft domain, and you want to run it on Microsoft, go ahead and run it. And you can extend Oracle Cloud into that Microsoft Azure site. And both of them act as a single data center with very low latency trunk connection between them. So once Azure decides to open up in our region, we'll be partnered up, and you'll find that both Microsoft and Oracle are providing their services as one data center. Okay, so MCIT came up with four classes for clouds opening up in Saudi Arabia, starting from qualifying, which means this is a new cloud, still no checks have been done. Class A, which is good for individuals, private sector, non-profit sector, and only public data. Then you have class B, where you start going into confidential data and more secure data. And finally, class C, which is the highest classification for public clouds. This is when you can put secret and top secret governmental data on the cloud. Already Oracle has attained that certification, and we're the only hyperscaler cloud that reached that certification. But others might be along the way, and I believe in healthy competition, and I think many of them will reach it at some point. Globally, the point is when you go and have this highly Geo-distributed cloud available in many different countries, you get certified everywhere. And as you get more and more certifications, and by the way, these certifications apply everywhere. So whenever we certify a cloud to a certain standard, that standard carries through for all of our regions. We don't have like certain regions classified in a different way. So with every area that we certify in, our cloud gets a bit better and more secure. And the fact that we're everywhere means that we pass through almost every regulating entity in every country we're providing clouds in. So when it comes to vendor lock-in, Oracle Cloud is open, and it was perceived as an open cloud from the get-go, and it's based on Oracle technology. So as you know, Oracle technology is available on-prem, available on the cloud, available in other clouds. It's a commodity at this point. You can find Oracle database almost anywhere. And we're running Oracle database on the cloud. So this means that even if you migrate to the cloud, you're migrating the same good old technology that you're aware of, and you can migrate out just as easily because you're using a well-established, well-known technology that is provided by almost every cloud and on-prem, even the on-prem solutions. And what we're running on the cloud is not drastically, the products that we're running on the cloud is not drastically different from what you've got on your data, in your data center. And of course, it's open across the stack. If you want to go for something cloud native, if you're going for a cloud native solution, OCI is using CNCF open standards. You'll find that it works, what works in OKE, or Kubernetes, managed Kubernetes instance, would work just as good as on GKE, Google's Kubernetes instance. Yeah, we're part of the CNCF organization, and we're certified to be an open cloud. Actually, there is OCI, another OCI, which is the Open Container Initiative. So OCI is certified in OCI. Okay, so when it comes to skill gaps, there are two ways to perceive them. First of all, Oracle is a well-established product. You get tons and tons of people in the market. Finding people who know Oracle is not that hard. There are many of them. And then there is the cloud portion. The cloud portion is the challenge, right? So how do I provision? How do I encrypt? How do I do all of that? How do I secure on the cloud, as I mentioned? Oracle actually leveraged AI, and we came up with autonomous concepts. So we have there are autonomous services running in the background of the cloud. And if you can get a car to drive itself, why can't you get a self-driving car? Is much, much more complicated than just a self-driving cloud. We're doing the same. So in the back end, there are AI agents that go in and tune and adjust the cloud to make sure that it's secure and safe, even if you don't know what to do, right? So you find autonomous data warehouse, autonomous databases, autonomous Linux even now. Okay, so when it comes to security, Oracle deals with many, many governments around the world. And you know, Oracle started out as a government top secret kind of a database. And we're maintaining that legacy with us. So when Oracle built its cloud, it started with security at its core, and everything else was built around that security core, with attack prevention, incident detection, incident remediation, and event analysis on top of very, very secure wall. Let me put it that way. So if you think about it, we have the identity, we have the monitoring, we have the virtual networks, we have the instances that are completely secure, and we're applying zero trust principles across everything. Okay, so as a result, we have several success stories, whether it's Argo Scout, Phoenix, Retraced, Ways to Go, Mazda, Integra, 7-Eleven, Starbucks. And what I like to say is, usually, this is something that some people don't like, but if it's significant enough, most probably it's either running on Oracle or using Oracle or will run Oracle. Thank you for your time today. That's it. That's my presentation.
Thank you. We have a question. I hope you're willing to take the question. Let me just pull that question up for you. Right. So the question is, in case of a cyber attack, how fast will the data, on cloud be recovered? And is the OEM, will OEM own these risks?
Okay, so it depends on the cyber attack, what kind of cyber attack. And at the end of the day, it's as secure as you make it, Dave. You can go in and disable every single security feature we have on the cloud and go for the promo, and then you're completely available to the world to be attacked. However, if you're using our technology, we have, first of all, a web application firewall that prevents almost most of the conceived or well-known attacks out there. And then we have the Cloud Guard, which is constantly monitoring your cloud to make sure that you're safe and secure. And finally, we have our own NOC team, Network Operations Center team, which is monitoring any malicious behavior. Good. So, but if you're talking about, let's say, a malicious user within the organization going in and running a ransomware script intentionally to damage the data, then you will rely on your disaster recovery site and your RPO, RTOs that you've set up from the beginning, just as would happen with your local data center. However, for external attacks, we have all of these solutions built up just for that purpose.
Thank you very much, Engineer Tharwat, for the extremely insightful session. Thank you very much for taking the time out for the summit and sharing with us your knowledge. We, the entire team of TREX events, are truly appreciative of your association and presence with us today. And I request all our dear participants, please feel free to ask any questions that you have to Oracle in the chat box, and it will be answered by the team as soon as possible. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tharwat, once again for the extremely insightful session.
Thank you, Roger, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.